الحمد والنعمة لك الملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك.
في المدينة محمد نبينا بنور هدينا محمد نبينا بنور هدينا.
Nigeria and Bangladesh are concluding plans to work together in an effort to improve Hajj management in their respective countries. Head of the Bangladesh Hajj mission, Dr. Muhammad Abdurrahman, stated this during a courtesy visit to NAHCON headquarters in Makkah. He said the visit to the Nigerian Hajj mission is to share experiences towards improving the handling of Hajj affairs.
We have come here to hire some ideas, good ideas from your mission. Actually, that is our objective. And for sharing of knowledge and experiences, I may raise some points, some basic information regarding Bangladesh Hajj mission. As you know, Bangladesh is it's a great populated, densely populated country. We have about 165 million people, about 128,000 in total, who just came from Bangladesh. And in our system, we are still dependent on the private tour operators, private Hajj operators, and almost 97% who just came through the private tour operators, private agencies.
Subsidy.
Making his remarks, NAHCON chairman Barrister Abdullah Mukhtar says Hajj should be a platform through which relationship among Muslims can be enhanced. Barrister Abdullah Mukhtar revealed that in the traffic sharing, Nigerian carriers take 75% while the Saudi carriers take 35%. He also stated that 95% of Nigerian pilgrims were in Medina before the commencement of Hajj.
In Medina, 100% our pilgrims stay in Markaziyah. 100%. Not a single pilgrim stay outside Markaziyah. And the standard of our hotel in Markaziyah is from 3-star minimum. So we take only 3-star, 4-star and 5-star hotels in Markaziyah. And this package includes the feeding. Each pilgrim has 2 meals per day. Yes. And this package also includes his meal in Mashair. Throughout his stay in Mashair, he has a meal that he will be served. And our transportation system this year, right from Jeddah Airport to all the routes, is VIP buses.
He said NAHCON has concluded plans to start Hajj Training Institute, Hajj Savings Scheme and the electronic registration of pilgrims to ensure proper data storage and retrieval. The NAHCON chairman reiterated President Muhammadu Buhari's support for Bangladesh for allowing the Rohingya refugees to settle in its territory. The chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NAHCON, Barrister Abdullah Mukhtar, has reiterated the Commission's readiness to support Nigerians living in Saudi Arabia to fulfill their quest for education. Barrister Abdullah Mukhtar gave the assurance when he received members of the Association of Nigerian Communities in Makkah, led by its chairman Alhaji Mustafa Suleiman. The NAHCON chairman, who spoke in Hausa, advised them to document in detail the challenges confronting them in their educational pursuit, promising to lend support in addressing the problems.
Idan kuka rubuto takarda, a rubuto consulate shi ma ya mata covering letter, wato ya rubuta takarda ta gabatarwa. Takardan ni a shawara ta kar ta zama kurmar takarda kawai da za a ba da labari. Zama takarda ce da take da cikakken bayani, hatta yaran da kuke da su a nan wanda sun gama secondary school din kuma suna da sakamako mai kyau ɗin da za su iya zuwa jami'a, kuma a yi bayani cikakke a kai. Na tabbatar da idan aka fuskanci irin su PTDF ba za su rasa cewa a ciki su tsinci wasu su ce sun ba su scholarship ko a Najeriya su yi karatun ko su je wata ƙasar su je su yi karatun.
Barrister Abdullahi Mukhtar disclosed that NAHCON has evolved a policy that spells out the type of service providers to be contracted by the Commission to serve Nigerian pilgrims in Saudi Arabia. He said the policy accords preference to Nigerians for placement. He, however, said that this can only be done when they have requisite qualification. He pleaded with them to provide the Commission with useful information that could enhance its services. Speaking earlier, Chairman of the Association, Alhaji Mustafa Suleiman, said, for long they have been faced with the challenge of furthering their education, and this is retarding their progress.
Secondary school ɗinka har zuwa final year SS3 daga nan sai dai ka haƙura. Idan yau kana da buri da zaka taimaki kasarka ko ka taimaki al'umma, amma babu yanda za a yi ka cimma karashin wannan karatun da har yau zaka zo ka amfani al'umma, wallahi da yawa sai dai su yi hakuri su koma gefe su koma gida su zauna a haka suna ganin wannan burin na rayuwa ya zo ya wuce su domin babu wani taimako.
He appealed to Nigerian government to put in place stringent measures to check the movement of those coming into the kingdom illegally and end up tarnishing the image of Nigeria. More than 55,000 Nigerian pilgrims were attended to at NAHCON clinics in Medina and Mecca. Head of the National Medical Team, Dr. Ibrahim Kana, disclosed this at a meeting with the Commission's management in Makkah. Dr. Ibrahim Kana said the clinic at Hijra area recorded the highest number of patients of nearly 10,000 during the 2017 Hajj. Also during the period, he said Nigeria recorded 28 deaths.
For our knowledge, we delivered 3 babies this year, one from Nasarawa, one from Kogi, and an international pilgrim who actually is an indigen of Kaduna State. And then we had 1 miscarriage. Of course, there are some other issues here and there, but officially 1 miscarriage. And as of today, we have lost 28 pilgrims.
Dr. Kanu further stated that members of the National Medical Team will continue working until all Nigerian pilgrims are airlifted back home from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Speaking earlier, NAHCON Chairman Barrister Abdullahi Mukhtar said his meeting with the National Medical Team is to assess some critical aspects of operations during this year's Hajj exercise. He then described the performance of the medical team as outstanding, particularly with the newly introduced Electronic Medical Record, EMR.
I want to acknowledge, just like many others, that the performance of the medical team is an improved version of what it used to be. And the introduction of computerized system of attending to the pilgrims itself has helped greatly in bringing a lot of transparency, check and balances in the management and administration of the drugs procured for the benefit of the pilgrims. But just like any other human endeavor, there are always room for improvement. Those areas that require improvement, that's what we are going to look at this meeting. Those things that we need to do before we get back home, we'll do it. And those that will put it in the action plan for 2018 Hajj, we'll document it.
The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NAHCON, is making arrangements to commence the training of drivers for its ambulances in Saudi Arabia. NAHCON chairman Barrister Abdullahi Mukhtar stated this at a meeting with the Commission's drivers in Makkah. The chairman said the training is to acquaint them with the necessary skills on how to drive ambulances. The NAHCON boss commended the drivers for their hard work and urged them to be more committed in discharging their duties. The meeting provided the drivers the opportunity to ask questions, make comments or lodge complaints concerning their work. The drivers are Nigerians based in Saudi Arabia and are engaged by NAHCON to work in an ad hoc capacity. The NAHCON chairman also met with other group of casual workers. The few remaining pilgrims from Borno and other states who did not go to Medina before the commencement of the Hajj rite have now been taken to the holy city and were accommodated by NAHCON in a 5-star hotel at Markazia area. While there, they are expected to visit the Grand Mosque of the Prophet, which is very close to the hotel. It is therefore a walking distance for the pilgrims to the mosque. Some of them prayed for President Muhammadu Buhari and also for the peace and unity of the country as well as economic prosperity.
Na farko dai zamu yi addu'a ma shugaban kasar mu Muhammadu Buhari, Allah ya bashi lafiya kuma Allah ya ba kasar mu lafiya. Na biyu kuma mu jihar Borno, especially rikicin Boko Haram, muna roƙon Allah kuma tun zuwa mu addu'a muke yi wannan masifan Allah ya yaye mana shi, Allah ya kawo mana karshen shi. Addu'an da muke, Allah ya sa kasar mu albarka.
Fatan raga Najeriya na ɗaya dai Allah ya ba shugaban kasar mu lafiya kuma Allah ya ba Najeriya lafiya. Na biyu Allah ya ba Borno State lafiya da gwamnatinmu na Borno. Mun gode mishi da abin da ya mana. Mu dai tsakaninmu da su mu yi musu addu'a a kasa mai sarki. Allah ya ba su lafiya, Allah ya ba kasar mu lafiya. Allah ya ba kasar mu Najeriya lafiya, Allah ya ba shugaban kasar mu lafiya.
Habibi nuru sata fil Madina Muhammad.
In another development, Medview Airline, one of the official carriers for the 2017 Hajj, has completed the airlift of Nigerian pilgrims back home after the Hajj. The last flight had pilgrims from the eastern zone comprising Enugu, Port Harcourt, among others. The managing director of the airline, Munir Bankole, said, in all, 15,000 pilgrims were airlifted back home from Saudi Arabia, having commenced their return journeys on the 10th of September. The carrier is the first to complete the return journey.
Feeding and accommodation are key components of the Hajj exercise and occupy a very important place in the planning and preparation for this annual pilgrimage for Nigerian pilgrims. Before now, it has always been a Herculean task getting Nigerian pilgrims properly accommodated in Medina and Mecca. There were complaints, and much of them centered on the poor quality of the apartments rented, in addition to being located in places far from the Haram. Pilgrims were therefore forced to walk long distances to get to the masjid and oftentimes missing out on prayers.
The accommodation used to be very far and the hotels before are nothing to write home about.
We face a lot of challenges then because it's not easy. It's not our country. It's Saudi country, so it's not easy. In short, it's not easy for us.
These complaints formed the basis of the reform embarked upon by the leadership of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria in collaboration with state pilgrims welfare boards. The first move was to sort out the accommodation of pilgrims in Medina. Prior to 2016, states pilgrims welfare boards handle accommodation in Mecca and Medina, with most pilgrims lodged on the outskirts of Medina, far from the Haram. With the new policy, accommodation is now centralized under the supervision of NAHCON. The key objective is to ensure that Nigerian pilgrims are accommodated very close to Markaziyya.
The information gathered from those that went through the state boards, Hajj, some of them commended the accommodation being close to Haram. There are some that are still saying they are far to accommodation. People like some states are there in the Saracetin, after Saramanso, that some of them used to take cabs before going to Haram, but some of them also commended nearest to the Haram, the hotel given to them.
So Alhamdulillah, the NAHCON tried their possible best. In Medina, the accommodation is 110%, so superb, very close to Haram. The hotel, so superb.
The feeding and accommodation that the NAHCON engages itself in the Holy Land is better than what we used to have before. But this time around, the accommodation is closer to the masjid and the feeding is better.
Compared with what we had last year and the previous years, I think there is an improvement this year, for the fact that those things were made very close to where they were accommodated and where to perform their rights. Unlike the previous one where people need to feed on their own and the distance from one place to the other, I think it's more comfortable this year.
Based on the report we got is that is the NAHCON that provided everything for them, the accommodation, the feeding, and then they make sure that the transportation from the hotels they provided for them, they make it easy for them to get to the Haram from the hotel. Even in Medina, according to the report we got, they also make it easy for them to get to the Haram in Medina. That is the masjid of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam Medina. If the hotel is far away from, it's far from Medina, they provide transport for them that can convey them from their hotel to Medina. I think that this year Hajj is more preferable compared to what we had before.
My sister is one of those who returned, and she made the snapshot of many things that happened there. In reality, there are many changes from the Hajj they used to have before. You see, the accommodation was closer to Haram. Not like before, that is, you have to trek or you enter bus before you come to Haram. The accommodation is so closer to Haram. Some latecomers even stay in their home to pray. That's the great difference. Not like before that if you are only on maybe 3 days Hajj, that they used to accommodate you when you pay the big seat, they accommodate you near the Haram. Now whether you pay less, you are living closer.
Another commendable step taken by NAHCON during this year's Hajj to make the stay of Nigerian pilgrims in Medina comfortable is the provision of meals. Pilgrims were served 2 meals per day during their stay in Medina. Before the introduction of the reform, Nigerian pilgrims were left to their fate of fending for themselves. This they do by buying food, and most of the time from unhygienic sources, thereby exposing themselves to health hazards.
The kind of food we were eating then is not advisable, because the people that we normally buy food from them, they normally come from villages in Mecca. We don't know how they prepare the food. Even when you want to buy the food, you see that the way they prepare the food is not even good at all. You see them maybe hiding themselves in one place like that, and it's not conducive. From the environment is not good. The how do I put it? The sanitation of that particular place is not good at all. It's not good. It's not advisable to continue eating that kind of food like that.
The feeding program put in place this time around, I think, is a good one compared to the past year, in which people look for food on their own. But this time around, there are foods for you. After you might have performed some ibadah, you just come back, get your food ready, and you eat. Unlike before, you'll be looking for a way to get the food, whether to prepare it yourself or to go and buy it. Before that, you have already straight off with worshiping, with ibadah. By coming back, you are able to see what you are going to eat. So I think it's a good one, and I'm appealing to them to keep it up so that it will be better off than what happened this year.
Like before, because we are eating from all these Turakis, these local cooks, there is plenty of diarrhea. But this time around, it's better. And if you watch, this time around, we don't have sick people in the hospital like before.
The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NAHCON, was able to achieve this feat because it took up the responsibility of making arrangements for accommodation and feeding pilgrims from states' pilgrims welfare boards. And this they did by setting out early to meet with property owners and landlords in Medina before the commencement of the Hajj exercise.
Maybe I have to relate it to what we have now, currently, where we are trying to make things change from the way it used to be. I don't know whether they have new management or whatever it is, but it's a good development, and I hope they will improve next year. Whatever they do that makes it different this year, I expect them to review it and improve again in next time.
Starting well this time around is a good one. They need to be commended on it. So they need to monitor and to go back on board and see how they have done it well from the beginning.
Even though NAHCON was roundly commended for putting in place the policy on pilgrims' accommodation in Medina, quite a number of people have suggested that the Commission should similarly take over the accommodation of pilgrims in Mecca. Leaving it in the hands of state pilgrims' welfare boards, they argue, has exposed pilgrims to immeasurable hardships.
Where we are being kept, Kaduna South, the hotel is not too good. Occasionally low water. We have to scout for water before you do ablution. The feeding, initially it was okay, but towards the end of these things, it become something else. Where we are being kept, I think they can still do better, because it's a little bit far from Aram. You trek about 30 minutes to get to Aram, 30 minutes to 30 minutes back. Those are the things concerning to accommodation.
Opinions also differ on the issue of feeding. Some say the amount charged for feeding for the period of stay in Saudi Arabia is too high.
300,000 naira for feeding on herself or on himself. But today, look at the ratio, look at the amount. And that is why these people are complaining that they should just leave it for the pilgrims to look after themselves. Not only that one, we have different variety of foods. Some people eat solid food every time, 3 times a day. Some doesn't. Now, if for example, you go through Kaduna here and you are from southwest, you have different variety of food. So maybe what the type of the food that will be cooking for you always might not be the food that you prefer. But if you are allowed to feed yourself, you do whatever you want to do, you feed with whatever food that is convenient for you.
This notwithstanding, a number of others believe the present arrangement is the best and should be maintained.
The process started providing food. I mean feeding for Hajj this year. They should continue like that, because to me it's a very good development. It's a good development. Definitely they should continue like that. Even if I don't think if they discover any other things that they can provide that will make them perform Hajj easily, that make them do the right thing at the right time at the right place, definitely is a very good development.
In 2018 Hajj, I would like to advise NAHCON to improve more, especially on that same accommodation and feeding and their hospitals.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك الملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك الملك لا